getting heavy. Talking about some dynasty, you're talking Debbie. You know my guys is never shook. It's time to sit down and let the DJs cook. That's right. You know they're coming through and getting heavy. It's time to talk some dynasty and talk some Debbie. My guys is never shook. Time to sit down and let the DJs cook. Ow!
What's going on, my D-Gens? How we doing? Happy 4th of July week. I know we're going on a Wednesday. It's not fun for me. I don't love doing this on a Wednesday, but Dane was so kind to me. He said, fuck it, let's go on a Wednesday. And I said, fuck it, let's do it on a Wednesday. And everyone's like, fuck it, let's listen on a Wednesday. So we're all doing it on a Wednesday. What's up, man? How you doing? I don't like the setup. Your head looks so small. Your head usually looks massive. You have a big head, dude, and it's usually taking up half of the box. So now I can't. I'm squinting right now. It's so tiny because StreamYard makes it small, and then we are smaller. So, oh man, it's freaking me out.
You know, we'll find the proportion right one day. Usually I'm glued to the camera or I am too far away, but I'll take this one and we keep working on it.
Yeah, no, I think you're good, man. I think right now the proportions are perfect. I think your head size, I don't know if it shrank, but it looks good right now. And I think I need glasses, Dane. Have you ever had an issue with eyesight in your life? Have you been 20/20 all through?
No, man, I've been glasses since grade 6, and I didn't notice that until I was playing hockey. I'm playing defense, and I have no idea where the puck is, and it's like, okay, let's go get some contacts, and I've been a lifer for that.
Yeah, because honestly, eyesight, right? You're good for life. Well, honestly, okay, in life, you age in little clusters, right? Like you don't age for like 10 years. And then all of a sudden you're like, shit, you age like 10 years in one day kind of thing. It's super crazy because I woke up and I was like, I can still see fine. But then when I drive at night, it's chaos, dude. It is awful. Cause like if the lights are coming at me, I cannot see a thing, dude. And I'm like, it's stressful. It is super stressful. So I'm going to have to start wearing glasses when I drive at night for sure.
Go get it checked out, man. Safety first.
I know. Well, yeah, man. I mean, the last thing I want to do is just be like one of those people that refuses glasses because like, you know, you can't accept it. And I don't know. You know I got a buddy like that where he's like absolutely can't read anything, but he's like, I don't need it, dude. I'm good. No, I don't want it. I'm like, dude, you can't read anymore, man. Like you're in trouble. Like I feel like you got to read at some point in your life still.
Dude, get that LASIK and be set.
Yeah. All right, we're jabbing along right now. We got a redraft mock to do, so we're gonna go through this year's mock. We got a live mock going. I got all the boys in the chat going off right now. I am excited. If you guys are listening right now, go into the chat. Tell me who the best values are, who you're most excited to see on the board. This is 2025 only. So like I said, redraft mock. We're going to have fun with it, man. And then after this, we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about the guys that I think we're going to boom, have really good years, guys that are undervalued, all that good stuff. Let's get that chat going. And Sleeper, let's let them know that we are starting this up. We are going, baby. So I'm going to tell them right now that we are going live. Tap in.
There we go. We got all those green dots. We got no autos coming first round, so that's great.
All right, baby. Here we go. Start mock. Oh, do we have sound on though? I don't know if I like that.
Gotta kill that. That's the bell on the left. Or the volume, I think, too.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Bunny money. All right, what do we got? You're on the board. We got Lamar Jackson first. Oh, spice. Then Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels. I can get behind Lamar this year. I think that Jaden Daniels might slip a little bit. We might see, I don't know. Like it's tough to bet on a second-year guy. I'm up right now. This is superflex redraft, by the way. So this is, you know, I think I gotta go Hurts here, and I don't love missing out on positional players, but these quarterbacks can go fast. They're
That's
gonna
right.
they're gonna fly, dude. And
Yeah,
and
that's right.
the-
And in redraft, you want to get the big point producers, right? Especially that we're throwing a wrinkle into it that it is a super flex. So you have to go and take those hammers right off the start.
How do you feel like, all right, this tier of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Jaden Daniels, who do you think finishes up first out of that grouping right there?
I think it's going to be Lamar again. Nothing's really changed in that offense. You know, they re-signed Bateman, who seemed to be his target on some longer throws. They have Derrick Henry. They're going to keep the defense on their toes again, and I don't see Lamar Jackson slowing down at all. He's completely comfortable in that system, and I think he's just going to continue to smash.
Yeah. I just saw Bijan at 108 and then Brock Bowers at 109. I don't know if people are really going crazy with Brock Bowers up in the first round for next year. How do you feel about Brock Bowers 109? Obviously, we're going tight end premium. This is super flex. I don't like playing without these guys right here, especially when you're talking about, I guess, the 2025 season. But do you like Brock Bowers in the first redraft?
I do. I think tight end premium aside, you know, he made that Raiders offense go last year. They went and added Genty. They added Geno, Pete Carroll. I don't see what's going to change in that situation. What is coming in that's going to take anything away from Brock Bowers from smashing or even improving on what he did from last year?
I mean, you can make the case that you're talking about somebody that in the backfield that's going to be hyper targeted. They just took this guy in the first round, and the fact that they're going to have to showcase his abilities, I think that he's going to be a mainstay in the offense. They didn't have a Genty. I mean, they didn't have anybody outside of Brock Bowers last year. So, I mean, if you want to make the case that nothing changed, I can't see it. A Genty alone in that offense changes a lot of things, but also you have to imagine that a Beck or a Thornton's going to emerge as a second option behind Jacoby Myers in the wide receiver room as well. I think a lot's changed on that team. I think that we're going to see the ball moved and spread out a little more. So I don't know if I have McBride over Bowers this year. I do.
Yeah, you have been pumping that for a while, right?
I think that, you know, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed for McBride at all. We're talking about somebody that could get a couple more extra touchdowns next year. McBride just actually went. McBride 205. So that's spread right there. We're talking Bowers 109 and McBride doesn't go until 205. I don't know. I think it's a lot closer than that. All right. So I'm up at 207. So we're looking right now. Dude, I'm still taking Mahomes at 207. I think that we're looking at the revival of Mahomes. You know, obviously the Rashee Rice is practicing right now. He's coming back, and then Worthy had a little breakout his rookie year. He's going to be there. Kelsey's one last hurrah. I think Kelsey's going to come in and try to at least still produce at a high level. I think that offense is going to hum a little bit. I think that they're going to be closer to what they were 4 years ago than they were last year. Believe in Mahomes coming back?
I do believe in Mahomes. That's definitely a guy that I've been kicking tires on to see if I can acquire in dynasty leagues. I think you nailed it. He gets Rashee Rice back. We see Xavier Worthy have a little bit of an emergence. You know, the thing with Mahomes, 10% of his deep throws last year were incomplete, you know, whether that was Worthy's ability to track a deep ball or it was thrown to Justin Watson. They just didn't have that deep ball. And we saw Andy Reid adjust for that too high safety that defenses like to play this year. And they started to feed Rice more until obviously Mahomes kneecapped him. But I think for me, signs are looking up that Mahomes is going to have a bounce back.
Yeah. So just to recap the board a little bit, I went Mahomes. Then there's a nice wide receiver run right here. We saw Drake London, Brian Thomas Jr., Nico Collins, and AJ Brown go. I mean, I think AJ Brown's being underlooked a little bit for redrafts. I can understand going with these guys for sure in Dynasty. I think AJ Brown should be going a little higher personally. I think that if we're the Dynasty brain has really gotten to some people, I think in general. I think that he's set up to, I don't know. I mean, I think Barkley's still going to eat, but I think that AJ Brown's probably going to at least, I think, step up from last year a little bit. I think that he was a little undervalued last year for sure as far as this usage goes.
I do, and he's so efficient, right? And we saw Barkley take that massive workload last year, and I think, as an organization, certainly not as fantasy players, we want to see Barkley maybe take a step back so they can take another run at another Super Bowl win here. And AJ Brown is just so efficient in the way that he works. And I agree with you. I think this is a bit of a dynasty mindset with him falling to the 211. I think he could have easily been, 1-2 turn, or at least start of the second.
Yeah, but you want the new shiny toys. I think that I would absolutely take Malik Neighbors. You can make the case for Drake London for sure, Nico Collins for sure. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's not going to be as productive as people assume this year, personally. I think that the emergence of Jameson Williams, we got somebody maybe timing out right now. Oh, Honcho, last second, Brock Purdy. Oh, Brock Purdy over Herbert. I don't know. I like that, I guess. I mean, I'm not a Brock Purdy guy, but go get your guy. JSN, I think, is a massive value right there. JSN going at 309. JSN is the whole offense at this point in time. I don't know exactly who else is going to be the second target there. It's up in the air. So you're looking at a wide open offense with JSN finally being highlighted, not sharing the role with DK anymore.
And that's been my guy. I've never wavered on him since day one. Even when he had a slower season coming out of the gates, we saw him with 100 receptions last year. Clint Kubiak comes in. He likes running that outside zone offense, but he also likes throwing the deep ball. And we saw that with Olave before he caught too many hospital balls from Derek Carr. But I think if Sam Darnold is able to get the ball out and succeed in a play action type scheme, we're going to see JSN, even improve on last year.
Yeah. Huncho said, I hit the wrong QB, but we ride, baby. This is where it gets a little juicy, right? Like, I'm looking at the board right now. I just saw Kyron Williams go, and I could kind of go anywhere. I went Jonathan Taylor last pick. I got 10 seconds here. I'm looking at Higgins. I think I'm going to tap Higgins here. I have a love-hate relationship with Higgins. The talent is undeniable. Though playing through the injuries definitely gets me sometimes. Higgins always has like a chicken game. Every year, Higgins is like in the game, and then he just like is there for a decoy. And it's the most frustrating thing because you have to play Higgins if he's active, right?
100%. The talent's there, but he kind of rivals Jalen Waddle to see who's going to be in the blue tent on every Sunday.
Well, I mean, he had the payday. He had this biggest season, and everyone is valuing him on the biggest season. But, dude, he was on a contract year. I mean, when have we seen that before? A million times.
Mm-hmm.
We see it all the time. We see guys just have career years and their paydays, and then they just get complacent and they get comfortable and they say, all right, I'm not going to play through this injury. I'm not going to do this. Like when they normally are doing things that they would have to do to get paid. So it's like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Higgins in that injury tent a lot more this year than he was last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And really you can bring up of how T. Higgins was so boom bust. If he didn't have that one big 40-point game in the playoffs last year, he would have finished as his typical wide receiver 2 finishing.
Yeah. I agree. So Higgins went, Tyreek Hill went right after him. I was curious where Tyreek Hill was going to go in redraft. I think that the upside is still there. Like you can't deny the fact that he could be undervalued. It's really hard to decide if he's under or overvalued at this point. He's one of those enigmas where it's like he could go either way this year.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing guys like Mike Evans go. I don't know if I would you take Mike Evans over Terry McLaurin or even Ted McMillan to Tora McMillan? Like, would you T-Mac? I don't know, dude. I don't know if I'm there anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I think that I think that the Emeka Ibuka factor is going to play into his ceiling a lot more than I think people are factoring into it. But
I think Ibuka is going to have a role on that offense, but still, like Vince obviously went to get the Mayfield Evans stack, and I think for redraft that's a perfect play. I would definitely take Mike Evans over somebody like Terry McLaurin, who I think is going to have a bit of regression in the touchdown department. McMillan, we don't really know what Bryce Young is going to bring to the table or exactly what that Panthers offense is going to do, but.
I'm all in. I think that's somebody we're going to talk about later as far as Carolina, and I think that they are showing their hand with Bryce Young in the fact that they are surrounding him with talent. They are improving the offensive line. They are making these decisions to kind of shore up his value and make sure that he is in a good place. And the fact that I don't know, dude. I think Tora McMillan's going to have a high targeted rookie year. I think that he's. Oh, I'm not on the clock yet.
No, you're next.
Getting too deep into this. It is very hard to articulate takes and then also be in a draft at the same time. I applaud anybody that does this regularly. I guess if I did it regularly, I'd be more used to it. But all right, I'm on the clock right now.
I know you have to try and multitask.
There
you go. Get your guy.
There we go. So I stand on business there. I went T-Mac there. Yeah, I think that you got to go surefire wide receiver ones in their offense, and this in this range right here, when you get into the 5th, 6th rounds, that's what you need, man. I mean, I'm looking at the DJ Moore, Devonta Smith. I get it. Like, you might want to go that route because you know what you're going to get. But there's nobody in that range that's going to be a wide receiver one on their team, right? Like, I don't see. Do you see DJ Moore being that guy with all that competition on the Bears right now?
I think we're going to see DJ Moore regress a little bit. I think that determines how you wanted to interpret Ben Johnson talking earlier, but it kind of sounded like DJ Moore kind of had to pull up his socks a bit. I think we're going to see Colson Loveland be more involved. I think we're going to see Roma Dunze be a bit more involved. That's not necessarily a guy that I'm too high on heading into next year, but I think it is enough that's going to take a bigger piece of the pie from DJ Moore.
Yeah. It is very up in the air in Chicago right now. I don't feel good about many positional players except for, I mean, I have to believe that they have an idea when it comes to Loveland and Burden, but I don't think anybody inherited in that offense. Like, they have to stand on business with their picks because they have to show that they know what they're doing, right? But when it comes to the guys that were already there, I don't know if there's any allegiance to getting them, in the game plan. I know that Odunze is probably going to eat a little bit, and then it's just, it's too many mouths to feed. Caleb's got to be throwing for 2,000 easy when it comes down to it. And I don't know if we're going to see Caleb really being – Caleb's got to take a massive step. And I don't know. You're on the clock, though, man.
I am.
So Devonta Smith goes right there. Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott's a good value, but he also is going before like CJ Stroud. I think I'm going CJ Stroud. I think that, man, the hate on CJ Stroud has gone a little too far right here. But
Yeah,
I went in the middle. Yeah.
I think Dak Prescott is a good bet in this 6th round. Maybe not at the start of it when there are a few more quarterbacks that I would take ahead of him. But we saw one of Dak Prescott's best years when Schottenheimer was his OC. So I don't mind that bet when you went and you get to pair him with Josh Allen. I think that's a really good QB2.
All right. I think I'm going Laporta here. I think that I feel good about that.
Nice.
Laporta, I mean, the fall of Laporta is incredible. You know, just what did he finish last year? Laporta was tight end 8, right? So he finished.
Yeah, he finishes tight end 8.
Tight end 8. I mean, after having a tight end 1 season, I mean, he's gonna meet in the middle there. I think he's gonna finish as a top 5 tight end at this point. I think that we're looking at the world of whatever order you want: Bowers, McBride, Kittle, and then Laporta. You know, like I think that those are the top 4 guys. And if you miss on that range right there, go get Darren Waller, I guess, at that point, because it's a straight line for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, like after the top 5 guys in the tight end position, you're looking at, you know, a very linear situation where it's like you probably can punt and still come out with somebody like way at the back end, like a Chig or you know, even like a Hunter Henry, somebody that will have a decent floor game to game. And then,
I agree. I think if you're not getting the top 3 tight ends like you talked about, I think Kittle.
TJ Hawkinson has got to be in that spot too. I forgot about TJ Hawkinson. A year after his injury, Hawkinson goes 7-1 right here. I think that's pretty proper as far as value goes. I think that Hawkinson is going to be a good safety blanket for JJ McCarthy coming up in this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Vikings offense is going to be really fun to watch this year. I think, you know, we talked about it on our DGen special. They might have the training wheels on McCarthy a little bit to start, but once he gets comfortable, they're going to sling it, and you're going to see all 3 of those pass catchers, you know, feasting for us on our fantasy teams.
Yeah. So it's getting a little. I mean, we saw Cortland Sutton go 6-12, TJ Hawkinson 7-1, Keyshawn Judkins. So we're starting to see the rookies go. I mean, I think this is like when you get massive value in redraft is these rookie guys. Like you're talking about people that are going to go super high in dynasty, you know? But then if we are looking at this, like if Keyshawn is the set and forget it RB1 on the Browns this year, like that's crazy. That's crazy value, you know, like that's incredible. I think that these are always good guys to target this late in drafts, especially 7th, 8th round on. You're not going to get the values there.
Yeah. Those are the times you take your shots, right? The Browns are in constant quarterback turmoil. That whole team is just a bunch of drama. And we don't know how they're going to step up, but we know that the one constant on that Browns team is they're always going to run the ball. So Quinshon should be able to come in and get touches immediately. It's just how are other defenses going to play against them, right? They might just end up stacking the box knowing that they don't have anything else.
Dude, that I was sweating throughout that whole conversation the whole time you're talking to me because I'm looking at Xavier Worthy, Pickens, and Jameson Williams, and it's like those guys are all back to back to back in my rankings at that point. You know, I went JMO just because I want the pop. I want that ceiling play. I think JMO and Worthy offer the same outcomes for fantasy, to be honest. I think that they both have like a boomer bust thing going on, but also have a decent floor considering. Like Mike Williams in their prime is how I see Jameson Williams and Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, I think both those players being in the same tier for me as well. You're going to see some manufactured touches for them. And then once that pace of play picks up for the team, you're going to see them take a deep shot to Worthy, and they're going to see JMO do the same thing. And that's where you're going to get those boom weeks that are going to win you your weeks.
Yeah, for sure. So after that, we see Michael Penix go, and then Caleb Johnson. So obviously another guy that could be incredible value right here. And then we saw the tier of Xavier Worthy, Pickens, Waddle, Chris Olave's there. Money at the corner right here is he has no risk tolerance. He's just like or has high risk tolerance, I should say. Taking Waddle and Chris Olave back to back. I like it. I think that's the ceiling is incredible at that turn right there. If they do stay healthy, there's just been a lot of PTSD with those guys the last couple of years in the fantasy community for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have to worry about, how many times Waddle or Olave are going to end up in the green tent, or you're going to get that notification on Sleeper, it is totally dependent on your risk tolerance.
I knew Huncho was going to take Swift in front of me, man. I just knew I wasn't going to get Swift at the back end there. I'm gonna have to punt the RB2 spot. I think I'm gonna take the next wide receiver that I have in my rankings here. I'm with Huncho. I love Swift this year. I think that I'm finally back in on Swift at value. If I can get Swift in a redraft in the 8th, 9th round, easy. At that point, you're looking at guys like Aaron Jones, Pollard, Tracy. You're going to have to go deep down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it becomes one big glob. I'm not necessarily too high on DeAndre Swift. I don't think there's a lot of competition there, but I just think as his skill set, maybe what they need to do is be able to run the ball right in between the tackles. And I don't necessarily think that Swift is going to be able to do that.
I honestly don't think that that's how they're going to play their running game. I think that it's going to be a lot of like out of the backfield, kind of like short passes. They're really going to try to open it up downfield, and they're going to have a Burden and a Swift kind of working in the backfield a little bit. I think that they're both going to run out of the slot, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. But I think they're gonna get creative with how they use Swift, and that whole team. I mean, people are like saying that you got to go draft Kyle Managai, and I don't see it. Dude.
Come on, guys.
I'm sorry. Like, what?
Yeah.
Have you watched his tape? Have you really studied the way that he moves? It's fine. I don't think that he has good value in fantasy whatsoever, though. And I hope that doesn't come back as a soundbite and bite me in the ass. But at this point, I know what I know, and I like to kind of go off of how I watch Ben Johnson operate in his offense, and I don't see how he fits. I think that we're seeing a lot of guys time out right now. We're going
Minshew, bro.
We were doing so good for so long, and now it's. I mean, yeah. I like Jerry Jeudy this year. That's not a bad guy to get timed out to. That's okay.
Yeah, not bad. I think going back to that Bears offense, I just want to say that everything hinges on Caleb Williams, right? I think Ben Johnson was so successful with Detroit because he had Jared Goff, who could run the simple plays. He knew when to throw the ball away. He knew when to make those quick checkdowns. And, Tanner Engstrom was really good with that. And I hope he takes some of that to the Jets and gets to calm down Justin Fields. And we see a resurgence there. But for me, yeah, that whole entire offense and what Ben Johnson wants to do comes down to Caleb performing.
Yeah, and that's the reality of it, because I mean, you can really just like construct the best possible offense, and we saw this happen last year. I think that he was in a perfect system last year. I know that the Bears don't necessarily operate the best offensive schemes, but ultimately the personnel they had, he was set up for a monster rookie year, set up better than anybody that I've ever seen, to be honest. And it just kept getting better and better. It was like, when Fields was over there, it was DJ Moore, and then that was it. I mean, you had Mooney over there, but it was tough. And now you're looking at guys that could be, oh, I'm on the clock. Hold on. Let me hold that thought for a second. All right, so I need a running back. I don't like any of this. I don't like this at all. Geez, I'm not gonna time out. Don't do it. Oh,
no.
what just happened? Well, I mean, Tracy,
It could be worse.
it could be worse. It could be worse. I'm sorry, though. I was too deep in a take right there. I didn't know I had 10 seconds left. So I got auto Tyrone Tracy. It is what it is. I don't love that, but I'm gonna come back around and try to write that a little bit. But yeah, Bears are set up. We got Val in the chat right now. Val's big Bears fan. Obviously, he's finally listening to a podcast. Thank you, Val. I appreciate it.
You know, it's nice to see his name is Val on YouTube and not Team Caleb, like we saw on Sleeper quite a bit. You know, that's a guy when you see his profile picture and his name, you're definitely going knocking on doors if you have some Bears players and you want to capitalize on a ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, Sleeper now has you put your favorite players, favorite teams in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know how that's productive as a fantasy player, because I think I look at that and I'm going to offer you any player from that team immediately when it comes down to it. I think that you're a trade target at that point.
100%. It you know, they call it flair, but it's bait.
Oh man,
right.
I gotta fix that pick back there. I don't like that.
I think one guy here that I'm going to take right now who's a thorn in the side, it's somebody that, you know, people have a lot of high hopes for him. He's really getting gassed up because of the draft capital, and that's Omarion Hampton. You know, I don't think that Harbaugh went and signed Najee to not use him. So I think we've seen Najee. He's consistently healthy. He puts up 1,000-yard seasons, and I think he's going to be a thorn in the side of Omarion Hampton all season.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I think I've said that on several podcasts that, you know, we're going to see a split backfield. I think Hampton's being overdrafted at that point. I'm going to go. We are going to probably go with Josh Downs right here. I guess I'm just going to totally disregard RB2 right now. And if I have to run Tyrone Tracy out there, so be it. That's a backfield that I want no part of. I don't think I want anything to do with the Tyrone Tracy, Cam Scatterbo. Who else is still on that team? Devin Singletary over there.
They have Eric Gray too, I believe. But yeah, there's nothing really to write home about. I think Scatterbo needs to understand that he needs to find the open spaces rather than search for contact. I found a lot of that when I was watching his film is you're not going to be able to do that in the NFL. You might be able to run people over in college and make it seem like you're a beast, but use your receiving chops, find the open lanes that you're capable of doing and get the yards that are there for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he still, you know, he has the ability to get through the hole. He has the ability to manipulate defenses and stuff. But yeah, he's a bruiser. He's somebody that I can see having good value on the goal line and stuff, you know. I think at this point we're looking at filling out, and it's so fun to do a shorter draft like this. Like Minshew bro just bailed. It's not really your style, Minshew. I don't know. I didn't really see you doing this to us, but he probably got busy there. So he's just double tapping Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk. At this point, it's almost bare bones now. When you're talking about redraft, it's pretty tough out there. It's getting a little gross. You want to go for high upside, and this is why I usually wait on running back in redraft. Like I don't care. I'll take my hammer with who I took with Jonathan Taylor, and then I wait because honestly, in redraft, I stream my RB2 like most of the time. I'm like looking at matchups and I'm just grabbing guys off the wire. And if your redraft has trades, take the best available. I don't know if you guys play no trades in redraft, but I think that, you know, people that stress out about filling positions, there's other ways to do it.
Absolutely. You know, grind the waivers, whether it's a priority system or however you do your waivers. I'm going and trying to get handcuffed running backs so I can kind of hamstring other teams, right? If their alpha goes down, well, They don't have that position. And if, quite honestly, if they want to go and draft the handcuffs to a CMC, to a Barkley, like, go ahead. You're just wasting a position, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then, taking the Trey Bensons, the Tajay Spears, the guys that are attached to players that are, they're old, man. James Conner is peaking 30. Tony Pollard's peaking 30. There's just more likely to see an injury happen. And that's the reality of fantasy football in general. I mean, that, these guys are playing at a high level at an older age. So, these guys, I love Trey Benson in redraft. I just took him at the 1107. I think that's good value. And we're talking about somebody that could easily be the RB1 of that team within, halfway through the season at that point.
Yeah, it might have been a rough season last year. He was a little bit banged up and he was losing snaps to DeMarcado and Carter, but I think this is the year that he takes a step and finds himself with more of a role in that team for sure.
Yeah, we just saw money actually autoed, I believe. Russell Wilson, tough. Takes Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman's someone I love in redraft as well. I think that's good value at 1201. Keon Coleman. I don't know, dude. I am so out on Keon at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of an ambiguous room of receivers there, but what we saw last year from Keon was just, he lacked the maturity to play at the NFL game. I think that route tree that he has is kind of stunted, and that, I don't know if you want to say that the hands weren't there, but it just seemed like at times he's definitely lost out on the field.
Yeah, but I think that you're talking about, I think that there's just not a lot of competition out there. And
yeah,
it's tough when you're looking at Josh Allen, who has had nobody to throw to for the last 3 years at this point. Like there's Khalil Shakir, who I enjoy, but at this point, you need somebody to emerge.
That's
and
right.
Keon Coleman has to be that guy, or it is going to be tough for him to not find the Treylon Burks exit when it comes to the fantasy world after a while.
Yeah, I agree. He brings a different element to that receiver room. They went and brought in Elijah Moore. They have Shakir, and they're both kind of over the middle, route tacticians with yak ability. But Keon Coleman needs to be that downfield threat for this team.
Yeah. So we're getting into, I think Luther Burden at 1206 is nice right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Darnell Mooney's always a good pick. I think no matter where he goes, I'm like, oh, that's a good pick, because he's in that Jacoby Myers realm where they're just like undervalued as players. They're not sexy fantasy assets. So
it's just a safe floor with Darnell Mooney. We saw him utilized quite a bit by in Atlanta last year. I'm drawing a blank on the coach. It's Raheem Morris and Robinson, I believe. And it kind of seemed like Kirk Cousins couldn't get the throws to Drake London all the time, so he was going to Darnell Mooney and he was going to Ray McLeod quite a bit.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I think that that's why we have London so high this year, is because we saw the way that Penix understood who we needed to get the ball to. Whereas before Penix, it was just kind of like who could. It just was like not steady. So I think we're going to see a heavy dose of London and Darnell Mooney this year, and I think they're both going to see a bump in production for sure. All right, last pick. We are going to go. Oh, man. Let's go Jaden Blue. We'll see what happens. Dallas is always a fun team to monitor. That backfield is a guessing game. You know,
Mhm.
if you had to put money on it right now, do you think Javonte Williams comes out, or do you think that it's some combo of Jaden Blue and man, who else? Phil Maffa is over there.
Yeah, they have
I'm actually
Moffa,
doing
they
a
have
pod.
Sanders.
I'm doing a pod tomorrow. We're gonna be talking Maffa a lot, actually.
Are you?
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
Right on. I think Moffa definitely brings a different element to that team. You know, we've seen Javonte Williams, the opportunity that he had last year with the Broncos. It just showed that he was kind of tapped out, right? Like I understand that he had that devastating injury, but you know, he had top 5 targets last year and he just couldn't do anything with it. Sean Payton really wanted him to thrive and be a part of that offense, but it just wasn't there. I know you were kind of a Jalen Noel fan going into our rookie drafts. I think that's one guy that I want to take a flyer on because who else does Houston have? I kind of want your opinion on that. Other than Nico Collins, is Jalen Noel kind of going to be that slot player for them that we saw? They wanted Diggs. I know they have Kirk, but do you think Noel kind of steps up and does anything in his rookie season?
Yeah, I think that Noel is definitely going to be somebody that has a role on that team. I think that we are talking about that was a good mock, boys. I appreciate it, all of you. We're going to break it down in a minute, but we're going to talk Jalen Noel for 1 second. I think that we're talking about a team that is going to be looking at Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, and Jalen Noel, and that's going to be their offense, I think, in the future. For this year, I think we're going to see a little Christian Kirk in there. We're going to see, players mixed in and matched. And, but I think that taking these guys where they go, I think it's going to be a Higgins and Collins show initially. But I think Jalen Noel starts to shine like in the middle of the season, towards the end of the season a little bit. And then you finally see, I think Christian Kirk is probably going to be one and done with this team.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they drafted, I think that they drafted for the future. They drafted for that nucleus around Stroud. And I think that that's exactly what they're doing. And I love Noel at that value. I don't know if I love him for this year. I think that it's going to be a tough rookie year, but
Yeah.
if you're talking dynasty, I love Noel all day at that value.
Yeah. And you see, like, we've heard reports that Mixon isn't healthy. They brought in Nick Chubb, who, in my opinion, I think he's going to be washed. It's unfortunate to see a player like him, probably not recover from that injury, but all signs kind of point to them going to be throwing the ball quite a bit again this year.
Yeah. Before we get into breaking in this mock down, talking about player values, we're going to talk about PlsyerProfiler. So we're going to talk about PlsyerProfiler's player rankings. So that's new promotion this summer. If you guys aren't on PlsyerProfiler, go over there, use our code DGEN, DEGEN. You'll get a discount on a subscription. But we're going to talk about the player rankings sub that they have over there and what you actually would get by joining PlsyerProfiler. And then we'll come right back.
People say, oh, there's so much free on PlsyerProfiler. What's in the premium package? Well, it starts with the player rankings. We have the best process for ranking and projecting players, not just seasonal leagues, though. We're talking about tight end premium, specifically FFPC, best ball, specifically underdog, including their superflex rankings. And then we have IDP rankings, dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, Scott Fishbowl rankings, offensive line rankings by Dan Fornick, cornerback rankings throughout the season where you can see who's matched up with who. It's incredible. And think about who's contributed to our processes over time. Math majors, analytics powerhouses. Plus, you get the contributions from the real football guys. Billy Muzio, Dan Williamson, Bradley Stalder. That's why our rankings are the best. And if you want to upgrade and go all in, use promo code Underworld or your host promo code, and you get $25 off.
Hey, yo, we are back, baby. Look at this. I did some fancy footwork in the back scenes there for a second. So, All right, guys. So that was our mock. That's what we did. So obviously some good values there. We're talking about guys that I think we're just going to talk about guys that are going to fly up the rankings and really smash as far as their values go. I don't want to pull up the board, but I know that we have some guys that we're super interested in. Dane, who's somebody that you're all the way in on in the board at value wise, and then somebody that you think is going to exceed their expectations for this year? We'll just start with that.
Looking at the board quickly, I'm gonna selfishly go with my own pick of Rashee Rice, falling to the 4-4, whether that's in dynasty or in redraft. You know, I'm all in on him. What we saw from his 3 games last season, it's a pass happy offense. We see that the yak ability is there. We see Patrick Mahomes, willingness to throw and hyper target him. So that's a guy that I think is a screaming value and is going to continue to climb up boards.
Yeah, I think Rashee Rice is definitely somebody that people have fatigue over when it comes to injury. I think that you're in redraft, you want to target anybody coming off an injury. You want to target the guys. Like I love TJ Hawkinson because of the fact that, we knew what he was previously and we saw what he was before that injury, especially on that team. I think that once that trade happened, TJ Hawkinson was a set it, forget it, top 3 tight end. And not much has changed. Obviously, I think that we're going to get a more improved quarterback. And then also we're talking about a team that just is better offensively, that he's going to thrive in. He's going to have an opportunity to really work in depth with Addison and JJ. And the fact that, someone's always going to be open in this offense is going to really benefit him across the middle. I think that we're going to be looking at a guy that is not viewed as a top 5 tight end right now in dynasty, but absolutely when it's all said and done, he's going to have a top 5 finish this year. Hit me with somebody else that you think is super valuable on this draft board.
So I think right now, going and looking at a Quinshon Judkins in the 7th round, I think that's somebody that, we talked about earlier. We don't really know who's going to be the quarterback. We don't know their game scheme there. And Quinshon Judkins right out of the gate is just going to get all the touches that he can handle.
Yeah, I think that even if Samson does get a percentage of the carries, if Samson does get the PPR work in the backfield, that Judge can still, I think that every rookie running back is a value. I think that the Travion Hendersons, the Keyshawn Judkins, the Caleb Johnsons, they're all undervalued in redraft boards. We see it every year. I mean, I just got Luther Burden in the 12th round. And that in general, you're talking about always seeing at least 6 guys. Well, I'll just lowball that number, and that's coming out of my butthole right there. There's no backing to this, but like you would just say like always at least 6 rookies that will hit to a certain percentage where you're like, okay, that was an incredible return. And that's what we saw last year. We saw the Brian Thomas Juniors that were going exactly in this range. Like Brian Thomas Jr. was not viewed as a top pick. Brian Thomas Jr. was picked in the 9th, 10th spot, back end of the first round. And that's kind of where Burden was looking at, like the early 2nd, late 1st. So, I don't have the exact boards from last year, but Brian Thomas Jr. was an 8th, 9th round pick when we're talking about redraft. And that's just incredible return. Even Xavier Worthy last year got you return valued. So the running backs that are in these positions that were drafted to take over, Keyshawn Judkins is ideally taking over Chubb's role and is going to be that bruising back. And then Samson's going to be a Kareem Hunt, working as a PPR back, getting catches, short yardage stuff. And I think that, this offense, they did the archetype of what they did. They just said, okay, let's get our Chubb, let's get our Kareem Hunt, and then let's just marry this up, and it's going to be a seamless transition into a new offense. And I think that that's exactly what I see in their tape. I see, Keyshawn is somebody that's a bruiser. He's in between tackles. He is somebody that doesn't have incredible long speed, but he can definitely move a little bit. yeah, I love that pick. I love everybody in that range. I love Caleb Johnson in that range.
Yep.
I think that everyone is kind of undervaluing Caleb Johnson when all said and done, when we're talking about an offense that looks actually a little more formidable than it did, a month ago. I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is going to bring them to the promised land, that he's going to just like elevate this offense totally, but now they have a passing attack that you need to be very careful of, that you have to actually take seriously. It wasn't just Mason Rudolph and DK Metcalf, it's a slightly better Mason Rudolph than Metcalf now.
I agree. And they went and got Jonnu Smith last week in a trade. It's kind of going to cater to what Arthur Smith wants to run. And it's going to open up the run game for Caleb Johnson. And I don't think Jalen Warren is stopping him by any means. He might take some of the passing down work, sure, but I think that's going to be Caleb Johnson's backfield.
Yeah, for sure. What about pass catchers that you see on the board? I know that I'm going at you and I'm kind of going for your neck a little bit, but I think this is a fun little project that we got. I like putting you on the spot.
I like seeing Calvin Ridley at the back end of the 8th right now while I still have the board up. I think, he brings a different element to that Titans team. I think that's somebody that can really build chemistry with Cam Ward. And we've seen Calvin Ridley be elite. It didn't necessarily work out in Jacksonville, but when he was with Atlanta, he put up big numbers. He thrived, and I think he can get back to that.
Yeah, I mean, Calvin Ridley's an alpha, and he didn't necessarily slip on that. Like, I don't think that, the fact that he didn't produce to the level that he was producing in Atlanta, there's some growing pains that have to happen when it comes to taking time off of football, especially almost 3 years. I mean, when you come down and break it down, the injury year, the betting year, he just didn't come back from playing for quite a while. It takes a while to even get back into the rhythm of things. And the first year down, but like last year, all of his numbers were up. Like, he looked electric. He looked like he hadn't lost a step. He looked like the Calvin Ridley that we once knew, So I think that if anything, that time off of football has kind of preserved him a little bit, put him kind of in a time capsule where we're talking about somebody that's 28, 29. I think he's 28, I believe. But he's like a young 28. He's somebody that, without the 3 years of production there, we're talking about somebody that can probably produce wide receiver 1 numbers and have that, as I'd always have been saying for the last couple months, that Terry McLaurin wide receiver 1 season, that, okay, we're going to get him a quarterback. He's finally got a quarterback, and he's probably going to, you know what I mean? I think that he has all the skill sets to be that blanket for Ward, for Cam Ward over there. And then we're talking about that offense in general. Like, I think that people are undervaluing everybody in that offense. Like Chigo Okonkwo, I think, is somebody that if you're in a TEP league and you're doing these redraft leagues, I think he's such a good value, and you should be targeting him everywhere, because he had a mini breakout last year. And, like he did that with Skeleton Crew at quarterback. I think that, Cam Ward's going to benefit him greatly. And then, even deeper into that, like his offense that we're going to do. So DGens are doing an outlier special tomorrow. We're going to be talking about guys that, like probably shouldn't be hitting, probably shouldn't have value based on DC, based on their backgrounds, based on everything. But it's going to be highlighting this team, the Titans, extensively. Like we're talking about Dyke, we're talking about Ian Amar, we're you know what I mean, going down the list right there of everybody that could probably be producers on this team. And then if you just move down the board just a little bit, we're talking about Jacoby Myers, like somebody that I'm targeting everywhere in redraft, somebody that I think I want a part of when you're talking about getting a quarterback upgrade, getting a situation. I think Jacoby Myers with Geno is a set it forget it situation. I think that they're going to love each other. I think he's going to be such a good target for him. And we're gushing over Brock Bowers, but I want all of the Jacoby Myers when it comes to Geno Smith and, probably Geno Smith's number one target. If you are looking at the outside, there's not anybody that I'm really worried about taking away from Jacoby Myers. I think that, he's been slept on for so long, and it's like nobody likes him, but you don't have to be sexy to be a good value in these redraft boards at all.
Well, and that's it. And he's going off the board at the 10-10 today. And it's like, he might not give you the big ceilings that we're looking for, but you also need to find that safe floor. So when you're picking at the end of the 10th, you're not looking into a team that has a lot of question marks with pass catchers and stuff. Like this is your guy that should be a slam dunk pick, because you know what you're going to get from him week in, week out. One other player that I really want to talk about is your pick at the 10-6 is Josh Downs. So I don't think Anthony Richardson is ever going to take a step forward. I think it is going to be Daniel Jones, and Josh Downs is the perfect player for Daniel Jones. He's a route technician. He's got strong hands. He works across the middle in the short and intermediate range. And I think that's what Daniel Jones needs to do, is some of those easy plays where he can just move the chains and get into a rhythm, and you're taking him at the 10-6. I went and kind of reached on Tyler Warren at the 8-4. As a rookie, we don't know what he's going to do, how he's going to be deployed. And quite honestly, he might not build chemistry with any of those quarterbacks. You don't know what you're going to get from him in a rookie season. We all want him to be a McBride. We want him to be a Bowers. We want him to smash in his rookie year. But I think Josh Downs is really somebody that just, again, gives you that safe floor, but he can give you the big ceilings if Daniel Jones targets him quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Daniel Jones being the quarterback the whole year really makes this offense juicy. It makes it exciting for fantasy. And I hate that that's the case, but it's just a testament to Richardson really just being such a downer when it comes to fantasy production. It's like really tough because Richardson could have a monster game and then he can come back and, throw for 5 interceptions and have 84 total yards passing. And you're like, okay, like it's not going to happen for any of these positional players because it's not going to be consistent enough. You're not going to know when to start them, when not to start them. But I think Dimes, man, it's so crazy, like it is like life. You don't really appreciate anything until you have something worse. And that's just the reality of it. It's just like everything is the case, like I've been in relationships where I'm like, man, my ex is awful. And then you meet some girl that just really tops her. And you're like, shit, my ex wasn't that bad, man. Like she wasn't so bad. It wasn't awful as I thought it was. And that's what Richardson and Dimes are, like Dimes literally got kicked off of the team last year. Like the Giants, Dabo was just like, I don't like you anymore, dude. Like, I don't want you on the team anymore. He was thrown to the wayside and they didn't even have a quarterback to replace him. They were just like, dude, they had DeVito in there for a couple games. Who else was there?
They had Drew Lock go and win a game for them and take them out of the 101. Like
Drew Lock was over there. Yeah. Drew Lock won a game for them. That was, man, like you have to be so down bad to not have a backup and just say, we're good. Like we're all set here.
I agree. And I think once we saw Daniel Jones get cut from the Giants and he landed with the Vikings, you have to have, some positive thinking that Kevin O'Connell knew or saw something in Daniel Jones to be able to take him, to have him on the sideline, to have him in practice. He must have thought that something was there in the player. So I hope that carries over to Indy and he has a little bit of success there because we want to see these pass catchers, and Jonathan Taylor, we want to see them all succeed. And Daniel Jones has to be the one to take them there.
Yeah. I mean, Dabo has this, this quarterback whisperer thing that's attached to his name, but honestly, I think that is a little blown out of proportion as far as, the way that he operates, the way that he develops talent. I know that he's got a good track record, but I think a lot of that is the coaching tree that he has underneath him too. I don't think Daniel Jones is as bad as as that offense. Cause I mean, nobody's stepped in and has been really wowed in the, I mean, not that they've had options to do that, but I'm very curious to see Russ Wilson in that offense because they're probably similar in the way that they operate, they move, and I'm not motion wise, but just like their processing and everything. It's like,
Right.
I can see the way that Russ is so cooked. He's probably almost on the same level as a Daniel Jones when it comes to the way that he sees the field. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's so tough, but this is a sidetrack moment right here. We went on a tangent and I started talking about ex-girlfriends, but yeah, I like Josh Downs. I do. Full circle, baby. Back to Josh Downs. All right. Yeah, I like Josh Downs a lot this year. And I think that I was in a mock a couple days ago. Actually, I was in a mock with my guy Pete right here. So we did a mock. I was talking to them about, how I don't know what after this year entails for the Colts, but I think this year it's going to be so juicy when it comes to fantasy points. I think that they're really going to just kind of, Jones is playing for his career right now. Jones is playing for a chance to get a contract somewhere, to be a guy somewhere. And I think we're going to see, I think we're going to see Daniel Jones put up a top 20 NFL quarterback fantasy production year. I think that we're going to see, do you think we see a top 15 season from Daniel Jones? Possibly.
No, I don't. I think we see a back end QB too, but there's levels to this.
I was raising it up a little bit. I really, dude,
I'm stomping on that shit.
Dude, you just totally smashed it. And I was like, I was having fun with it, dude. I was excited. I think that, the idea, I was going to go higher. I was going to go top 10, dude. I was just going to if you said yes, I was going high. I was going way high. I was going super high.
But let's put levels to this where Daniel Jones needs to play for a job, but Ballard and Steichen also need to play for a job as well. I think Steichen has to get some plays that get the ball out of the quarterback's hands a lot quicker. He had these plays that were so long developing, and Anthony Richardson just couldn't process and make those plays work. So hopefully that coaching staff adjusts to Daniel Jones, or while we see Anthony Richardson on the field, and they get the ball out quick. They might have to raise that pace of play. They might just need to make safety valve plays, and that's definitely going to be Josh Downs.
All right, so let's have a little fun with this, right? So, do you think that Daniel Jones outproduces Tua in fantasy points this year?
No.
I think
go ahead.
I'm just going to go down. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole right now.
Okay.
Do you think Tua or Bryce Young have a higher point total in fantasy this year?
Give me Bryce Young.
Do you want Bryce Young or Baker Mayfield in Dynasty?
Baker.
Do you think Baker or Justin Herbert have a higher fantasy total points this year?
It's Herbert. I feel like I'm in an eye exam right now. Better or worse? I think it's Herbert.
Really, I think it's Herbert too. We'll end at that. I think it's Herbert. Yeah, it's always an end at Herbert. I love Herbie. I think he's the most durable quarterback in ever. You know what I mean? Like that dude gets his head taken off, and he's just like, fuck it, let's just go. Let's go.
Yeah, broken ribs.
Never takes a game off. Never's really okay, I'm good. Like you can say whatever you want. He's in a run first offense. I don't care, dude. I love having Herbert on my team.
Dude, he's efficient. He airs it out. You know what? I love Herbert's sound bites when you hear him trying to snap the ball and he freaks out on his O-line. Like that alone bumps him up in my rankings because that guy wants to compete. The fire is there, and I love it.
Dude, Harbaugh loves Herbert, dude. Have you ever heard sound bites from Harbaugh and Herbert?
He's just completely infatuated with him.
Dude, he's like, you see that throw? Look at my man. Yeah. He's like, yeah. Like, dude, gasses him up. Like, his number one fan, and I love that. If I'm seeing that kind of interaction with the quarterback and the coach, like I want that on my team, dude.
Yeah.
It's not even about fantasy points at that point. It's just It's good for morale, man. It's good for the vibes.
Herbert's going to go into the building one day. He's going to open his locker, and there's going to be a pullover and a pair of khakis, and that's it. They're going to be twins.
Herbert will definitely be a coach in the NFL. Herbert will definitely be. Yeah, I could see that. I think that he looks yoked this year too. He looks like he's definitely been hitting the gym a little bit. I don't know if that's going to equate to, fantasy points or anything, but all right, man. What else we got right now? Because my earbuds are dying out right now. They're starting to beep in my ear.
What do we got, man? You tell me what you guys are got going on in the future here. What you got coming up?
So tomorrow I got my boy Z. So Z from 32 Beat Writers, newly acquired Z from 32 Beat Writers.
Congratulations.
Good friend of mine, a buddy that, we've always interacted in the space. We're doing a DGen special tomorrow. So just he and I, I'm going on vacation tomorrow. So we're going to pop that and record that live around 1:00 tomorrow. We're going to talk about our favorite guys that just have no business being in drafts and possibly lesser than 10% owned in Dynasty that we just love. Like guys that I think you are going to want to pick up on the waiver after this pod. I think that it's just going to be one of those pods where you want to tune in and you want to listen just because we're dropping nuggets on these guys. I already alluded to the fact that we're probably going to be talking about Dyke. We're talking about Maffa. We're talking about certain guys. There's definitely a good list over there. Some names that you haven't even heard of before, but I mean, this is probably going to have a hit rate of 10%, but I promise you there's going to be a guy in this list that you're going to want to pick up. So that's going to be a fun thing that we have lined up tomorrow, like I said, 1:00. And then we are doing all of the pods. So, I mean, this week we dropped the Devi pod on Monday. We dropped the Redraft show, Dynasty Whiplash, yesterday on a Tuesday. We're doing this pod on a Wednesday. We're doing the DGen special tomorrow. I am jumping on a couple pods on Saturday as a guest. I honestly don't even know what I signed up for, so I can't even tell you right now, but I'm sure we'll find out at some point on the X there. Yeah, but I got some news for Dane. I think Dane is going to be the host of a new show, so I'm excited for you. I think that's going to be a fun thing. You're going to be obviously still sticking with the DGens, but I think that we're setting you up with a nice little home, so that's going to be fun. Yeah, I think that the DGens have been cooking. We got a lot of stuff going on. If you guys aren't in our Discord, we've started a new tiered Discord. So it's actually going to help you guys quite a bit. If you are not in it and you want to be involved, definitely DM me or DM the account Dynasty DGens on X. So we're doing in-depth Discord help. So we have a couple pods that are going to be streamed live to just Discord. We also have AMAs. So with all the hosts between Devi, Redraft, and Dynasty, we are going to be, going through that. You can ask us any questions. We were going to do private chats. We have roster construction, trade help. We're going to be startup help. We'll actually go into startups with you. We can do the whole startup with you if you want to do that. Just really in-depth help that we're targeting for this year. And I think that's going to help everybody for this year, for Dynasty, whatever it is that you play. We have Devies. We're deep into C2C, all that good stuff. So it should be fun. And then during this season, we are dropping a new show. So it is going to be called The Tailgate. So my friend Stacy Perez and I are setting that up as we speak. I think I can announce that right now because we are live, and I think it's going to be super fun. Stacy's a great person, a good friend, and is going to do a great job. So this is going to air before games on Sunday every week, and we're just going to have fun with it. We're going to have guests throughout the space, people that are going to be, big time names in fantasy football, answering questions, start sits, waiver help, all that good stuff. So it's going to be right before game start. I think it's going to be really productive, and people are going to really tune into that just because nobody knows what the hell's going on before game time. So I think it's going to be
Yep.
super informative that you're going to be able to tune in. Stacey's going to be able to tell you exactly who's playing, who's not playing, who you should pivot to, who you should go to. And it's just super helpful. I think I started in the space to find start sit help in general. I think everyone got into Twitter for start sit, for injury news, for all that stuff. I think that
Oh man, that's huge.
initially that's really what you got into, and that's really what this pod's going to be about. So I think there's so much on the fire right now and so much cooking right now. If you guys aren't in on Dynasty Degens, come into our Discord, come on over. Join FastDraft. If you guys aren't doing FastDraft right now, that's great. Obviously, they're doing the best ball tournament called Rabbit. So that's a $20 best ball tournament where there's no positional flex. There's no rake. You guys can just go in there. You can draft whoever you want. You can draft 15 quarterbacks if you want. I don't know. I mean, if you want to get crazy with it, get crazy with it. So it's super interesting. I don't know any contests that are no rake. Have you been doing fast drafting? Have you been jumping into rabbits and doing all that good stuff?
We finally got it in Canada, and I've been hammering the origins. I haven't got into a rabbit yet. I'm hoping to this weekend. It seems like it's going to be a little bit quieter. I have a Scott Fish Bowl coming up, so I'm doing a little bit of studying for that from the 105 spot to see how, what kind of a game plan I can build. But other than that, this weekend is quieter, so I'm going to be holding down that Discord and looking at all the tiers that we're offering, and it's awesome to be a part of this team that just seems like it's nonstop.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, doing a lot of fun stuff. I appreciate you as part of the team. I appreciate everybody joining us today, talking with us a little bit, interacting in the chat. Like I said, we have the DGen special tomorrow, but if I don't catch you on the special tomorrow, I hope you guys all have a safe and happy 4th of July. I hope you really enjoy it. Dane, if you guys are in Canada, have a good day, I guess, at that point.
So what? It'll be a Saturday for me.
Enjoy your day. No, I think it's 4th of July is on a
What is it? Friday. It's Friday.
Yeah,
so you guys are going to be going extra on a Friday.
I mean, I got the whole week, baby. So it's like,
there you go.
No, I'm on vacation now. So, all right, guys. Thank you. We'll catch you guys next week on Thursday. So back to our normal time next week. But thank you. Peace.
Peace.